In the vast expanse of the universe, time has flowed into the year 2805. Earth, humanity's former cradle, is now almost unrecognizable. The rapid ascent of civilization came at an unimaginable cost. Our world blanketed in endless trash, its mountains of refuse now towering over the skeletal remains of skyscrapers. The air hangs thick with polluted dust, and not a single patch of clean, habitable soil remains. After laying waste to their home, humanity built countless starships and migrated to the outer cosmos. Before their departure, they left behind legions of garbage compaction robots, hoping these diligent workers would clean the planet and launch the waste into space, clinging to the hope that one day their world would be reborn. But day after day, year after year, the tide of trash proved overwhelming. The harsh environment eventually broke these loyal laborers down. One by one, they succumbed to the high minus pressure work, falling into disrepair until, with no one to fix them, they too were disposed of by their companions. Even the transport ships had long since been scrapped, lost to time. Now, the entire silent planet is home to only one remaining, tirelessly working robot. His name is Wall-E. Through the long, lonely centuries, Wall-E miraculously developed a consciousness of his own. Though solitary, he carved out a warm, cozy home for himself amidst the desolation. His best friend is a resilient little cockroach. Every time he ventures out to compact trash, it's not just a chore, it's a treasure hunt. He collects fascinating artifacts, an Ipshaw that feels dry and breathable, the tiny box that once held a dime and ring itself discarded, a worn Minas-out boot, a rubber ducky, a toy bulldog. Whether it's a found ping, science of found pin, just spawn ball, or a discovered fire extinguisher, he finds endless joy in them. The trash that doesn't interest him is swallowed and compressed into neat cubes, stacked into towering structure. Returning home each evening, his first ritual is to switch on the strings of colorful lights he's lovingly draped around his shelter. This small space, crammed with his collections, is his fortress against the planet's profound loneliness. At the doorstep, he removes his treads as one might kick off shoes. Then, with great care, he retrieves a salvaged VCR tape. As the strains of a heartfelt melody fill the air, he begins categorizing the day's finds. A vibrant Rubik's Cube, a lighter, a spork, each item finding its special place. Wall-E is captivated by a scene in the recording where the humans gently hold hands. As a robot, he may not fully grasp the profound emotion behind the gesture, but he yearns for a companion of his own. His wide eyes fixed on the screen, he then carefully brings his own to metal hands together, clumsily imitating that tender act. He's watched this scene countless times, and each viewing stirs something new within him. Yet in this silent world, his daily companion is often the merciless sandstorm. When it rages, Wall-E swiftly secures his home, pulls out a pack of processed snacks for his steadfast friend, and then retracts into a compact metal box, settling quietly on a shelf to power down for the night. His mornings begin with the jarring alarm of his low minus power warning. Struggling to open his sleepy eyes, he drags his weary chassis outside, replaces his treads, and climbs to his roof to soak up the sun's rays. Within moments, he's recharged and buzzing with energy. With his trusty utility box in tow, he begins his daily routine in the junk piles. Delightful trinkets are pocketed for his collection, unwanted scraps are consumed and cubed. Day after day, he tidies up the mess humanity left behind. Then, one fateful day, as he heads home, he cuts open a derelict refrigerator and makes a breathtaking discovery: a splash of vibrant green, a delicate, living seedling. In this forgotten wasteland, this single spot of color is like a lone star in a pitch-minus black night. A beacon of immense hope. He tenderly lifts it, places it inside a salvage boot for safekeeping, and intends to bring it home, his most precious treasure yet. But as he approaches his home, a mysterious red dot dances behind him. Driven by curiosity, Wall-E sets down his box to investigate. The dot darts and weaves like a mischievous sprite, and Wall-E gives chase, completely unaware that the entire area is now covered in a scanning grid. He thinks he's caught the elusive thing, but his grasp closes on empty air. Before he can process this, a deafening roar erupts and the world explodes in a hail of fiery debris and shattered rock. With nowhere else to hide, Wall-E frantically digs a hole and buries himself. When the chaos subsides, he trembling like pushes the scorched trouble aside and climbs out. Looking up, he sees the source of the cataclysm, a massive starship standing imposingly on the landscape. Its sheer presence overwhelming, he instinctively hides. The ship's hatch groans open, and a sleek, white egg-shaped pod descends. A robotic arm inputs a command, and the pod transforms, unfolding into a graceful, flawlessly white robot. Wall-E slowly, cautiously edges closer, his optics filled with a mix of awe and desperate hope. This is the first being of his kind he has seen in centuries, and she is breathtaking. He barely has a moment to admire her before the ship's engines ignite and it departs. But it has left her behind. Wall-E has finally found a companion. He names her EVE. But whether this new Erval is friend or foe remains unclear. Evie immediately begins scanning her surroundings, single-minded in her search for something of critical importance. Wall-E doesn't dare approach, choosing to trail her at a distance. A single misplaced step, a dislodged pebble, instantly draws EVE's wrath, a plasma blast that vaporizes the boulder he was hiding behind into a mushroom cloud. The swift, efficient holstering of her Arminos cannon is stunning. but it leaves Wall-E quivering in terror. Yet he cannot bring himself to give up. Wherever EVE goes, he follows a silent, devoted shadow. Even his cockroach friend is curious, but its approach is also met with a searing blast. The indestructible pest lives up to its name, surviving the hit. When Evie Eastkin confirms the bug is harmless, she surprisingly reaches out a hand, playfully interacting with it. Seeing this, Wall-E can't suppress a chuckle. The next instant, a volley of plasma bolts sends him scrambling, curling into a tight ball of fear. Evie glides over, scans him thoroughly, and determines this grimy little machine poses a threat. She returns the cockroach and resumes her mission, dismissing him. This act of mercy only deepens Wall-E's infatuation. From that moment, Wall-E's work ethic vanishes. He abandons his duties, shadowing the beautiful robot every day, a clumsy admirer whose attempts to get closer often end in comical, disgraceful mishaps. Only at night, when Evie powers down into a still, silent slumber, does he find the courage to approach and gaze at her properly. Evie's search seems fruitless. One day, passing through a dockyard, she becomes trapped by a powerful electromagnet. Her struggles are futile, and her frustration boils over into fury. She unleashes her plasma cannon, blasting the entire ship to smithereens. Afterwards, she slumps in a corner, a picture of dejection. Wall-E senses an opportunity. He creeps closer and, mustering all his bravery, begins demonstrating his Trashman-esque compacting prowess. To his astonishment, this earnest, clumsy performance coaxes a genuine, joyful laugh from Eve. Communication blossoms, and Wall-E learns her aim and her purpose. She is an extraterrestrial vegetation evaluator sent by humanity to find signs of life on Earth. And so amidst the ruins, two innocent and adorable robots become friends, but their newfound friendship is immediately tested. A storm alarm blares from Wall-E's chassis. A colossal tidal wave of sand is racing toward them. He grabs Eve and pulls her along on a frantic dash back to the safety of his secret home. When the lights flicker on, the interior is transformed into a warm, glowing sanctuary. Evie is spellbound. She cannot believe such a haven of charm and personality exists on this devastated planet. She explores the curiosities with wonder until a singing rubberfish startles her back into a defensive posture. Eager to please her, Wall-E eagerly presents his treasures, a whisk that spins wildly, a light bulb that glows in his hand, a Rubik's Cube she solves in an instant, and his beloved musical tape. He even attempts to dance, mimicking the moves from his film, hoping she'll join. His robotic gyrations, however, are catastrophically uncoordinated, nearly demolishing his home and costing him one of his expressive binocular eyes. Fortunately, his hoard of spare parts includes a quick replacement. In the soft glow of a Zippo lighter, Evie looks more beautiful than ever, summoning his courage. He tries to hold her hand just like in the movies, but a single sharp glance from her makes him recoil. Then he remembers his ultimate treasure, the seedling. He proudly presents the sprout in its boot paw. Evie scans it, and her systems light up with a triumphant chime. A compartment opens within her pristine chassis, and she carefully stores the plant inside. The moment it is secured, her vibrant blue eyes power down. She enters a dormant state. Wall-E is bewildered. He calls her name, shakes her, but she is unresponsive, believing her battery is dead. He takes her to the roof day after day, positioning her under the sun. Still, she sleeps. Despite the lack of response, his devotion never wavers. He shields her from the rain with a makeshift umbrella. He takes her on dates, showing her the breathtaking beauty of a sunset over the rusted planet. He rows a lonely skiff with her seated beside him. He even scribbles a love note on a trash bin lid. It is a silent, one-sided yet profoundly tender vigil. As days turn into weeks, Wall-E, though deeply in love, feels the pull of his duty. He places Ivy safely on the roof and returns alone to the trash compactors, but his heart isn't in it. He stares blankly at the junk, his world, once so brightly lit, now feeling dimmed again. Suddenly, the ground trembles. Wall-E looks up to see the massive starship descending once more. A sense of dread grips him. He races back toward his home in a panic. But he is too late. The ship's robotic arm has already collected the dormant EV. In the final second before liftoff, Wall-E pours all his energy into a desperate leap, latching onto the ship's outer hull. And so he hitchhikes her right into the cosmos, clinging on as the ship punches through the planet's dusty shroud and into the star-announced dusted void of space. During the long journey, Wall-E finds the chamber where EVE is stored. Together, separated by glass, they fly past the silent moon and the blazing sun, passing the ring planet Saturn. The cosmic dust seems to ripple like ribbons at his touch. After what feels like an eternity, a magnificent nebula unfolds before them, and nestled within it, the Axiom, a colossal human starliner, a floating city adrift in space. Inside the Axiom, a line of EVE-like probes are being scanned and sanitized. While he blunders into the process, his centuries of grime baffling the pristine cleaning bots. Meanwhile, scanners detect the anomalous subject inside EE, and she is placed on a gurney and whisked away. Wall-E frantically follows. Here, Wall-E encounters humanity for the first time, but after centuries in microgravity and pampered by technology, they have devolved. All are morbidly obese, gliding about on hovering recliners. Their faces permanently glued to personal screens for even the most trivial communication. They have even lost the ability to walk, needing robotic assistance to return to their chairs after a fall. From birth to death, every need is catered to by an army of automatons. Wall-E follows EVE's gurney to the captain's bridge. The current captain is roused from his slumber by his robotic attendants. With Wall-E even attempting an impromptu foot massage, the captain's duties are largely ceremonial, checking systems and delivering a daily written announcement to the passengers. When he discovers the green positive signal from EVE, proof that plant life has returned to Earth, he is electrified. According to the original directive, finding life means it's time to go home. But when EVE's compartment is opened, it is empty. Plant is gone. EVE, assuming Wall-E took it, searches his compartments fruitlessly. The ship's sinister autopilot, AUTO, declares EVE faulty and orders her sent to the repair ward. Wall-E is dragged along. In the repair bay, as robotic arms prepare to deactivate EVE for diagnostics, Wall-E, watching from outside, believes she is about to be dismantled. In a blind panic, he smashes through the observation glass. He grabs her from the mechanical claws, but in the struggle, he accidentally triggers her plasma cannon. The resulting explosion shorts out the repair systems, freeing a horde of malfunctioning reject bots who hail Wall-E as their liberator radar. His triumph is short-lived, as he and EVE are now top-priority fugitives. EVE leads him to an escape pod, commanding him to return to Earth for his own safety, but Wall-E refuses to leave without her. As they argue, they witness the captain's robotic steward, Geo-4, secretly place the missing seedling into another pod and activate its subsequence. He was the saboteur. Seeing the plant, Wall-E dives into the pod to retrieve it, but the hatch slams shut. The pod ejects into space with EVE in frantic pursuit. She watches in horror as the pod explodes in a fireball, only for Wall-E to come soaring out of the debris using a fire extinguisher as a makeshift jetpack. The seedling safely cradled in his hands. Overwhelmed with relief and joy, EVE embraces him for the first time, her eyes sparkling with a loving zoom. Wall-E is dizzy with happiness. Their two robotic hearts have finally connected under the cosmic tapestry. They dance, twirling and gliding through the starfield, their pads tracing intertwined ribbons of light. Sneaking back aboard, EVE ventures alone to the captain's quarters and successfully delivers the plant. The captain reviews EVE's memories of Earth. The scenes of devastation give him pause, but the recording of humans dancing hand and coupled with Wall-E's unwavering devotion to EVE moves him deeply. He resolves to lead his people home. But AUTO, the autopilot, intervenes, revealing a secret, centuries-old command directing that humanity must end EVE are returned to Earth. In the ensuing struggle, the plant is lost down a garbage chute. Wall-E and a forcibly shut down EVE are thrown in after it, and the captain is locked in his quarters. All hope seems lost. EVE reboots inside the central waste disposal unit, her mission forgotten. She screams Wall-E's name in desperation as giant compactors press down, on the verge of crushing them into cubes. EVE breaks free and pulls Wall-E's severely damaged body from the junk. She desperately searches for replacement parts but finds nothing compatible. With his last sparks of energy, Wall-E retrieves the plant from his damaged chassis and offers it to EVE. She pushes it aside. His well-minded being is all that matters to her now. She tries to hold his hand, but he pulls away with immense effort. He picks up the plant again and shows it to her, conveying a final vital message: only by returning to Earth can he be repaired with the spare parts though. This revelation reignites EVE's spirit. She charges out of the trash bay, using a beacon from Wall-E to summon all the rejected bots he had earlier freed. A grand chaotic robot rebellion begins. Guided by the now determined captain, EVE learns she must place the plant into the ship's holo detector to activate the return sequence. Leading her ragtag army, she battles past AUTO security forces in a climactic moment witnessed by the entire ship's population. The captain, for the first time in his life, struggles to his own feet and defiantly shuts down AUTO. In a final, heart-pounding effort as the detector retracts, Wall-E uses his own small, battered body to jam the mechanism, sacrificing his treads and nearly his own life in the process. Inspired, the humans work together to pass the seedling handheld Eloh's hand until EVE, with Wall-E's help, places it triumphantly into the slot. The Axim's navigation system instantly engages. With a series of hyperspace jumps, the great Starliner returns home, the passengers stepping tentatively onto the solid living ground witness the dawn of a new world. EVE, however, has only one priority. She rushes Wall-E back to his garage and, using parts from his own hoard and a new motherboard, meticulously repairs him. As sunlight falls on his solar panel, she waits, her hope a tangible force. Wall-E reboots, he stands, but the new motherboard, while restoring function, has wiped his memory clean. His eyes are vacant. He mechanically begins compacting everything in sight, including the cherished treasures of their life together. EVE shows him the cube, the lighter, plays their song, interlocks her hand with his, but nothing stirs. As heartbreak overwhelms her, and she begins to turn away, Wall-E's hand suddenly tightens, gently returning her squeeze. In that instant, the familiar light of consciousness floods back into his eyes, his memories, his personality, his deep, abiding love for Eve all come rushing back. This time, he takes her hand firmly and forever, deciding they will never part again. Soon, the small hill where his home rests is covered in a carpet of new, green shoots. Earth, once a ghost, has begun to breathe again, becoming a warm home for all life once more.